Hello and welcome back to the Pop Off PC Mag's video game show. I'm Jordan Miner. Buzzy, you're still here.
I am still here, always thinking
Yep.
about Master Chief as I do.
He's a pretty cool guy. He fights aliens, doesn't afraid of anything. But now we're joined by another very cool guest, IGN's own Ryan McCaffrey.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being on. Yeah, we're doing a show about Halo, Xbox anniversary, all that stuff. We thought there's no one better to talk about that than you. So just this episode's about not just these two really kind of important forces in gaming that coming up on this really it snuck up to me on how long it's been, like how long they've been around, even though they've been like the last, we were saying earlier, kind of like the last new console to kind of sneak in there and be like a major force. So Ryan, do you remember your initial thoughts when Microsoft revealed that, hey, we're doing a video game console?
Well, it's funny. My just silly personal story is I joined Official Xbox Magazine out of college in fall of 2002. So 1 year into the original Xbox. I was fittingly that we're on PC podcast. I was a diehard PC player for years before that. So I actually wasn't even paying attention to what Microsoft was up to with the Xbox until I was offered a job interview with OXM, and I said to myself, all right, I guess I better buy an Xbox and this Halo thing and get to know it. So I dove in about a year in and have been in love with the console and the platform and the Halo as a franchise ever since.
Nice, that's funny. I bought an Xbox One when I was like, all right, I need to be like a professional game journalist now. I should have an next-gen console. Cool. So do you remember kind of like the first games that you played on it? If it wasn't Halo, then what was it and why?
It definitely was Halo. Yeah, okay. I went and bought it. Knew by that point, obviously Halo was the thing. I mean, Halo very quickly became the thing. So yeah, picked it up and that's. I'm dating myself, but Sin was the shooter that I trained myself as a PC gamer back in the day to play mouse and keyboard with. And then Halo 1, when I bought this Xbox, Halo was the game I had to train myself to do first-person shooters with a gamepad on. So, but I remember that first mission on the ship and getting off the ship and then landing on the Halo ring. And it definitely, like, even as a dyed-in-the-wool PC player who was loving shooters on PCs, there was clearly something special about Halo and both the campaign and then certainly when you fired it up in multiplayer as well. It really and obviously it started life as not PC, technically a Mac game, but yeah, I mean it started as a computer-based shooter before moving to the Xbox and the console space. So yeah, it was a good time, and then from there, for me, it was trial by fire every day, literally every day at 5 p.m. at OXM, somebody would boot up Halo because we all had our desks with our computers, and then we had a TV and an Xbox. Somebody would boot the game up, and it was like the Pavlovian signal of, oh, okay, I guess the workday is over.
Work is over, LAN begins.
Yeah, we're going to spend the last 30 to 60 minutes of the day playing Halo, and we literally did, and it was great. And so, I started off not super great compared to everybody else who'd been playing it for about a year. But eventually I caught up and was able to hold my own with the good old 3-shot death pistol that is infamous in Halo 1.
Not overpowered at all. I like how Halo mimicked the same arc as you did, going from PC to console.
Yeah,
it was always meant to be. Your roots took the same path there.
It seems like it.
Yeah, I think the fondest memories, or just the memories I have, is like running home after school, turning on that Xbox, playing split screen multiplayer, and it's just like the quintessential, I think, like gaming experience when I was growing up is just multiplayer split screen Halo. Nothing quite like it to this day, I would say. Couch co-op has sort of gone away, but yeah, that was just invigorating.
No screen looking. Keep your eyes in your own corner there.
I love the images on the internet.
Cardboard divider.
Yeah, the things people came up with to like not let you see the blankets and cardboard and tape and all sorts of brilliant solutions.
Yeah, we were talking about how like Halo's important not just to the Xbox, but just to the idea of first-person shooters on consoles. Like that's something that's not only works, but like is really fun and is now obviously like very dominant on consoles. But yeah, so we've seen so many shooters, so much serious sense. But I think what gets lost is that Halo itself still has a pretty like distinct identity that's pretty cool. I think worth acknowledging. Just like when we were speaking about Smash Brothers characters, if they had put Master Chief in Smash, there's a lot of cool specific Halo things they could have done that I think people didn't really appreciate, like just the nature of some of the more sci-fi guns, I think.
Mm-hmm. Is his Needler ultimate or his Halo 1 pistol ultimate, given how powerful it was?
Yeah, it's not the Needler, that's for sure. It's definitely the Halo 1 pistol. I mean, if he did show up in Smash, it would probably be either like the Covenant energy sword or maybe the rocket launcher could be a good, Smash weapon.
Or Warthog like flies through and just like drives over somebody and dips out. Yeah.
Right. But as I say, just Halo has cool recognizable characters and lore, all these Halo books and whatnot.
Aesthetics. I think people are excited for Infinite, and I think they're doing this on purpose, is sort of this return to the original sort of Halo art style in a sense. It's like they look like action figures, right? Those early games, they look kind of like they're like fun colors and they're bright and they're very distinctive. And I think Infinite's sort of marrying that look with kind of a more realistic look. But 4 and 5 kind of got off track with their art design a little bit, and it wasn't really the same, and it kind of lost its identity. I think it was a big deal, even the Infinite teaser where they showed him holding that classic looking Master Chief helmet. It's like, oh, that's like the original armor, and it just kind of a little bit back to roots, because like you said, it's very iconic. It stands out. Yes, he's a space marine like a lot of other video game space marines, but in a very distinctive sense. He's wearing a giant green suit. Like there's no getting around. Yeah,
that shade of green has kind of changed in every game. Seemingly, right. It's like it just tweaks a little bit every time, and now it's back to more of the bit of a lighter green from Halo 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely some nostalgia there. I guess speaking of Infinite, we were saying earlier too, like just how much pressure all there is on this game to kind of like revitalize Halo, and also like here's like the showpiece Xbox Series X and X game. But something you didn't really get into earlier so much is that this is from 343. This is still this other team that had to sort of take up the reins after Bungie. So I guess just how we felt they've done, where we think what their strengths have been, or how what we're looking to see them improve in Infinite.
I mean, my take is that by and large, 343 has gotten a bad rap, a bad shake from the community, and it's because they're not Bungie. I mean, that absolutely was the case with 4. I don't think I don't think a reasonable person would argue with me on that. That's certainly in hindsight. I mean, there was a lot of like, "Grr, you're not Bungie. I don't like you." The Coalition got a little less of that, but a version of that when they took over Gears from Epic.
Yeah.
But it's for me, 343 has never put it all together. That's what I'm waiting for. The Master Chief Collection, obviously, they learned some very, very painful lessons from that.
Yes,
to their credit,
very in public.
Yeah, and they have stuck with it, and it is now a great thing, and it continues to live on.
Yeah.
So they do get credit there for sticking with it. Are people justifiably upset that they spent $60 on it and it was broken for so long? Yes, I completely, I would not argue with you there. But coming back to my thought about that they've not really put it all together yet. For me, I thought Halo 4 had a great campaign, and then the multiplayer was not up to the typical Halo standard, which is absolute top shelf 10 out of 10 kind of multiplayer.
Yep.
Not saying it was bad, it was just not up to.
I think they got a little lost in the sauce trying to chase Call of Duty and compete with that, and it just took on its weird hybrid form. It just was
I would agree with that. And then 5, conversely, the opposite happened. The campaign was straight bad by Halo standards. That was the story was awful, but it was a complete letdown from a campaign perspective. But then the multiplayer, they crushed it. It was a phenomenal multiplayer, unbelievable mechanics. And now it's just hopefully Infinite's going to put both a great single player and a great multiplayer into one game. So that's really the big question.
I'm so excited to hear another Halo 5 multiplayer evangelist out there, because I feel like not a lot of people either played it or don't quite get that it was really good. I just don't think people give it a fair shake. I played way more of that than most people probably did. I'm very competitive multiplayer focused. The settings for that were great. The esports scene was good while it was around. Like, it was a fun game to play and watch. The thrust felt great. The clamber was good. Like, everything in that game was fundamentally exciting, but those games, especially the marketing for 5, was based so much around this campaign, and
Right.
when that flopped, it just no one paid attention to that game
Yeah.
long term, and they didn't really support it. It wasn't really the time for live service games as much yet, so it just kind of fell off the radar. It didn't have that second life like Rainbow Six Siege, where it's like this resuscitation of this game, like, hey, we made it good, come back and play it. Like it kind of became nothing.
Yeah, and I think that you're completely correct. And then the other thing I would add on to that is it was still a pretty dark time for the Xbox as a platform. You know,
Yes.
people were really down on Xbox, and understandably so at that point. You know, that was 2015, fall 20. It was 6 years ago as we sit here. And it was, yeah, that was still kind of the dark ages for Xbox. So yeah, those two things combined to not bode well for Halo 5 and it's the success its multiplayer didn't probably have as much as it deserved.
I'll say this for Halo 4 though. I played all of them for the first time earlier this year, actually, on Master Chief Collection on Series S and X. I'll say this for Halo 4 though. I think it's a really good looking game. Like,
Yes.
I think its aesthetic is really important. You can tell they hired a lot of Metroid Prime people. I think. So I'll give that for sure. But yeah, you know, this gap we've now seen since Halo 5. Hopefully they've had time to really think about it and apply it to Infinite. And speaking of Infinite, so Ryan, sounds like you have some impressions to potentially share that maybe some other people haven't heard yet.
Yeah, I mean, I got to play it. So at IGN we do a kind of, the idea is taken from my magazine days at OXM. I came to IGN and helped create something called IGN First, and the idea is it's kind of a cover story, a magazine cover story, but in website form. So we spotlight the heck out of one game and do a number of features in it on it throughout the course of a month. And that's been going for years now. The pandemic has kind of we've had a few gaps in there, but anyway, our IGN First game for November is Halo Infinite, and I had the unique opportunity to go up to a mostly empty 343 studios a few weeks ago with some of my teammates at IGN. And we played quite a bit, played about 4 hours of the campaign plus some multiplayer. And whenever this airs, I'm assured it will be Thursday or later.
Yes,
You can go read and watch our very lengthy impressions of that campaign hands-on time. Miranda Sanchez wrote that preview and did the video preview to go with it. So I encourage you to go watch that. But for me, my takeaway was that it's alleviated the worry that I had going in. I'm really excited about it, which is what I wanted, but I was nervous about this one going in because, you know, they had
healthy skepticism. I think it's fairly earned healthy skepticism after all the delays and everything.
The delays, and they stumbled last year with their big campaign reveal, and the fact that this is a very different structure to the game, which I think is good in principle, right? Like, I'm glad that 343 is trying to make Halo their own rather than just continuing to follow the blueprint that Bungie laid out. But you don't know if that's going to work, right? Until you actually play the game. And I played the first about 4 hours of the game, and I'm loving it so far. Nice. It feels familiar, but it feels a bit new as well. And it definitely has a bit more of a Halo 1 vibe. It's we'll see where the story goes. Mm-hmm. That's always important in Halo. We're just talking about how Halo 5 completely dropped the ball in the story department.
Yeah. So,
but the stuff that's set up early on in those first few hours of Infinite have me excited, have me optimistic. And I don't necessarily want to get into too much detail to ruin anything for people, but yeah, what I can say for sure is I went in definitely, as you said, healthy skeptic, and wanting to be excited, and I got what I wanted. I came back. I just want to play more. I'm really excited about it. So that just made me so happy when I finally had done
the same skepticism concern about the multiplayer, and that was also alleviated by playing the technical previews.
Yes.
I don't think it's perfect. I have a couple of comments and things, but it's good. It's fundamentally was a lot of fun to play, and that's what was important. I think, as you said, the structure of this campaign is what was kind of the most They kind of teased in that reveal last year the like open map, but they wouldn't really say quite what it means. Were you able to see more of how the structure goes, apart from the story, the actual
Yes.
plot?
So it's not a traditional open world where you can wander absolutely anywhere, and there's a like long list of checklist things to do. But I would equate it more to the Batman Arkham games, where you kind of you have these sort of sections of the Halo ring that you're in at a given time, and then you'll unlock. So I basically played. I didn't get out of the first section of the ring, and eventually you'll unlock more areas, and presumably then you'll be able to freely travel between them. But yeah, there are different things to do. Obviously, there are different sort of secondary objectives. You can follow the story, and it's or you can just kind of wander around. So yeah, it's not open world in the sense that we've kind of come to know it, and in some cases dislike it today.
Right.
You know, it's not open world in the sense of a Far Cry 6, but it's, again, the game that came to mind for me was the Batman Arkham series.
Interesting.
I
think giving some sort of that feeling of those early Halo levels, Silent Cartographer, and when you first land on the Halo ring, or as if the map is very big, but it was actually fairly linear. If they've expanded that in a way that makes it feel like it's a bigger real open area you can explore all of, that seems like a cool middle ground between the two.
Yeah, the sandbox, like the sandbox feels really good. Like when you first come out onto the ring, one of the first things they point you towards is a FOB, a forward operating base that you are meant to reclaim, to just, you know, kill all the banished that are occupying it and reclaim it for the UNSC. And then you'll be able to you'll be able to go there and like call in vehicles that you unlock through Valor points, which is just a whole other thing I won't get into at the moment. But and when it said, okay, go get this base back, you know, I kind of looked around. I was sort of at the top of a hill, looking down on it, and I saw there was like a big tall column kind of up above, and I thought, you know what, all right, I've got a battle rifle right now that I happen to have in my hands, which feels as good as ever. So I used my grapple shot, which of course is another big new literal gameplay hook in Halo Infinite. Yeah. And I grapple shotted up to the top of this big column. And I thought, okay, well, I surveyed the scene, and, you know, there's banished enemies just kind of walking around. I could have just waltzed right in and just gone right head in, and it probably would have been quicker to do it that way. Maybe a little more dangerous, especially depending on what difficulty you're playing on. But I thought, all right, I'm just going to grapple shot up here. And I just took my battle rifle and I just started picking them off from up there and shooting the explosive barrels to take out a couple guys. And I just kind of did the whole thing from far away. And that's, you have that option. And I really thought that was an immediate moment very early in the open ring where it showed, hey, you can do this in a number of different ways, which kind of harkens back to Halo tradition, which made me feel good.
Yeah. If you ever have an option to do something normally and do something with a grapple hook, I feel like the choice is pretty clear which one you should pick. That sounds sort of like how you can approach the Far Cry bases in a different fashion, clearing a base. Like, I'm going to be stealthy. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to snipe them from afar. So
even just mentioning FOBs reminds me of Metal Gear 5, which I love, and
all four
as a template for moral games. I feel like we could ask you infinite questions about Halo Infinite, but you know, we want people to read the story and see for themselves.
Yes,
but
please.
Just sort of for the end here, about, you know, the Halo is also the Xbox anniversary. So you got a chance to talk to Phil Spencer on Podcast Unlocked, I saw, about 20 years of Xbox, and people can check that out. But what do you think was the most interesting takeaway from talking to him about this platform and its longevity at this point?
Well, you know, that Microsoft has a plan for 20 more. That's really the thing. Like, you know, there was when times were really bleak there, you know, in the 2013, 2014 window with the launch of the Xbox One, there was that chatter that I don't think was ever really particularly founded, but there was the chatter of, oh, is Microsoft just going to get out of the console business? Are they just going to, you know, fold it or sell the Xbox brand? And it's like, no, Phil Spencer took over in spring of 2014, and you know, he's been playing the long game, and we're finally starting to see the positive results of that. I mean, you know, his first big initiative as the head of Xbox was the backwards compatibility initiative, which the community loves.
It's great. It's one of the best things about the whole platform.
Exactly. And that is now like part of the Xbox DNA moving forward. And that's something like, I think it's, you know, not to get into a fanboy platform war thing, but I think it's fair to say that Microsoft has kind of dragged Sony kicking and screaming along for the ride with regard to compatibility. I mean, Sony's obviously dragging Microsoft kicking and screaming on making high quality single player exclusive games. So that's that healthy competition that benefits everybody. But yeah, you've seen Phil Spencer lay out this plan. They started up the Xbox One X program to, you know, kind of solve the fact that the Xbox One was underpowered compared to the PS4. And the One X was a great machine that could genuinely do 4K in a lot of cases on those as a mid-cycle upgrade. And now the Series X is a super powerful, very equally capable console to the PS5. And then they've got this unique strategy with the Series S, which you might look at it and go, well, you know, does that really matter? This sort of underpowered next-gen console. But when you're Microsoft and you've dug yourself a giant hole, the Series S is perfect. It's a perfect complement to Game Pass, which is the other huge initiative that's been paying off now, where, you know, Microsoft's smart enough to know that they're not just going to steal everyone back from Sony, that there's good reason that people own PlayStations and it's a great ecosystem and a great console. But if you can offer those people a $300 Series S and a $10 a month Game Pass subscription, well, they might join your ecosystem as, you know, as like a second console.
Plus, you can have something that's not this gigantic, hideous block in your entertainment center.
Yeah, that will tumble over behind me if there's ever an earthquake here in San Francisco, because it's literally too big for my my little cubby holes there. I mean, the Series X barely fits and the PS5 doesn't. But no, so, you know, the point is, that Phil Spencer's sort of big strategies, and now cloud is kind of the next piece of that strategy, and that kind of remains to be seen how that will ultimately play out. But these long tail moves you're starting to see them pay off, and that even includes one of the most important aspects, which is those first party games. You know, there was the Xbox One generation was an unmitigated disaster when it came to first party exclusives. Not that there weren't any, and not that there weren't good ones, there just weren't nearly enough. And now you're seeing with the Bethesda acquisition, I mean, just in the last year, you've had Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is, of course, PC and also now on Xbox Series X.
We're about to update our story about the best flight sticks.
Yeah,
there you go. Good time.
That's a 10 out of 10 video game. Yeah. That's a masterpiece video game. Psychonauts 2 is a game of the year contender for a lot of people, although technically that's actually on PlayStation because but still, it's a Microsoft published game. And then Forza Horizon 5 just out today officially as we record this. That's a 10 out of 10 video game. So you're starting to see Microsoft, like all these things, it wasn't going to happen overnight. It was never going to happen overnight, but now it's all starting to happen.
They realized they're Microsoft and they were like, hey, wait a minute. We can take a loss on a couple things. We can acquire studios. We can use the cloud to offer this game library. We can offer a variety of consoles. It's finally come to fruition, as you said, not an overnight thing, but
and the games industry is healthier when everyone is doing better and things are more competitive. So
and they're good at different things. So it's like a nice, well-rounded sort of options for different kinds of gamers. So
agreed.
An optimistic note for the future of Xbox. So yeah, Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. Check out those Halo Infinite stories on IGN. I'm going to as soon as they're up. Buzzy, you'll be around.
I'll be around. I'll be reading Halo. Be playing Halo. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks
guys.